105. In America, Trump and Musk claim they are rooting out fraud and waste to justify wrecking giant swaths of legitimate, essential, helpful government. But the liars gave themselves away by firing 17 inspector generals with giant portfolios to find and stop, guess what? Fraud and waste. Now it turns out that the 400 billionaire is booming fraud and waste himself, gutting specific government watchdog agencies investigating his potentially fraudulent treatment of his various business customers and competitors, and attempting to grab up to $2 trillion annually out of modest, struggling Americans' government services to hand that money in tax breaks, now pending for his crony millionaires and billionaires. Only midterm defeat inflicted by people care government voters will equalize American taxes and benefits for all economic classes. In every industrialized nation except big business buys government America, medical care is guaranteed for all, bankrupting no one. Here, dirty campaign dough buys big medicine and big pharma a sick care for-profit system that eats millions of patient victims for lunch. That's right, stop the money, honey. Everywhere, Claire. But why is lawful control of money such a monumental challenge? Why is money the root of so much evil, even after recognizing its great supportive roles of salary and home and sustenance provision? Because hunting instinct hunts money for food, shelter, and power. A desperate, aggressive minority of people will kill, abuse, and steal to get it. His story repeats itself. Journalist Rachel Maddow focused on World War II before full American entry on D-Day. Our naval landing on D-Day to invade Nazi-conquered France. Hitler, having crushed all of continental Europe, was killing thousands of British people with rocket bombs. Roosevelt sent them every defensive weapon that our growing war industry could turn out. Senator Ernest Lundeen loudly opposed any help to the battered little island kingdom. Give them nothing now. Past American aid must be paid back. As they are unable to, we should seize the British West Indies Islands for our just compensation. As you know, Franklin Roosevelt instead built U.S. industry, our military, and steadfast Europe alliance to World War II victory. Senator Lundeen died in a plane crash. Later, it was revealed that a Nazi agent wrote a number of Lundeen's "surrender to the enemy and rob our friends" speeches. Next, Rachel moved to today's parallel story. Donald Trump's long history as at least a perfect imitation of a Russian agent I have already related. Ukraine President Zelensky came to Trump's White House to appeal for steady military aid to stop Russian advances and offered to share Ukraine's valuable mineral deposits in return for post-ceasefire military defense aid. Trump offered zero future security guarantee, demanded $500 billion worth of rare earth minerals, but then threw Zelensky out with no deal for failing to grovel enough on that day after hundreds of his thank yous for years. The deal he jerked away was, exactly as Senator Lundeen had demanded of equally besieged Britain, payback for past aid, clearly gifts, not loans. 100% enemy script writing was just as apparent. Aggressors, Rachel said, do not defend friends against other aggressors. Instead, they magnify all aggression against all victims. Also good for further fleecing by purely transactional opportunists. My comment: the same art of the deal maker plans to drive 2.3 million Gazans into the desert to make way for Trump's Riviera on the Mediterranean, for rich paying customers only, of course. My true stories can also be allegory. Jackals and vultures feed best on dead bodies. Family and human family lovers get all physical, financial, and emotional sustenance from those they help to live, not hurt and kill. Only you can save the world and your family, because generous love made law, not greedy hate made king, can conquer all. Just as Darwinian survival of humans for 2 million dangerous, desperate years depended on hunters putting down carnivores' weapons to love and help absolutely every human. Did you know that a few archaeologists discovered utterly boundless human beauty through 99.5% of human prehistory until armies and money and religious and racial bigotry destroyed it? Hunting 500-pound, 40 miles an hour, 40-foot leapers was dangerous business. A number of stalkers wound up with legs, pelvis, and spines crushed for life. Correction, death. These cripples, whose skeletons were finally dug up, were, in a number of cases, nomads. Post-injury, they lay forever unable to move or obtain on their own one more bite to eat or drink of water. In a week, game low, the tribe had to resume their 1,000-mile journey. "Leave the helpless, deadweight non-hunter to die," said the alpha male tough guy. Then a number of sentimental wimps overruled the badass. How do we know? Bones tell good archaeologists life stories. Those crippled to useless at 20 were not left to die at 20, but carried tens of thousands of miles by nomads, fed, watered, and guarded against slavering wolves slinking near helpless prey. 15 years until their natural deaths at 35. You and I, my friends, everyone's friends, are going to take every power away from alpha males to stop them from abusing, abandoning, and killing us all for stupid, short-term power and glory. We are going to love, help, carry, and save society's weakest and most vulnerable, turning out to be all of us by law. Which 10 millennia is his story, Savage Anarchy, teaches us exactly how, which, and what to make. We will take lost people's freedom to abuse away, giving us all back our freedom to live long in safety. My following historical reports, as usual, feature evil, law-breaking behavior we could prevent from happening again by instituting strong and forcible reform law. Keep in mind that such law is designed to restrict public government actions to helping, not hurting people. Whereas public lawbreakers generally hurt others on the way to helping themselves to abusive power and theft from others. My histories were often drawn from NPR journalists' interviews with experts, witnesses, and public officials. I'm a bad scholar who usually fails to leap from my near sleep to record sources, names, and dates. Why believe me at all, then? Because stuff this scary, shocking, and important I couldn't make up, nor could thriller and horror movie screenwriters. Alexander Putin has always been an evil bigot, wanting every other group different than him to suffer, be ruined, jailed, and hopefully be killed. In 2013, he ran through the Russian Duma a bill essentially criminalizing homosexuals, bisexuals, and transgenders. He also got outlawed any public advocacy for groups that so many legislators were also ready to discriminate against and abuse. Ever since, these evil Russian laws were meant to justify and invite savage police beatings and long jail terms for every transgressor caught. I and many millions of Americans heard of Putin's new savagery against the small Russian LGBT community. I was disgusted, but around 8% of Americans were delighted, being equivalent haters of the sexually different and gender changers. Donald Trump commits massive abuse of women, browns, blacks, gays, and transgenders. The small American hater community took note of Putin's decade of war on Ukraine and his propaganda that his growing Russian empire must use force to rescue all Ukrainians from their evil, pervert, drug addict leaders. This in contrast to America's decent, knowledgeable majority who condemned the invasion of Ukraine's good, heroic people and government only wanting their safe self-determination and sovereignty, not vicious attack. You'll recall from my speeches Trump's other reasons to fight on Putin's side. 1. Putin's massive interference in American election advocacy, intended and very possibly succeeding in electing Trump president twice. 2. Putin holds off calling Trump's $300 million Deutsche Bank debt so long as he dances to Vlad's puppet strings. And 3. Putin may remind Trump as necessary that the film of a certain night in a Moscow hotel room need never appear on worldwide YouTube. Trump's 12 years bookended with first and second presidencies featured 30 Republican state legislatures' legal assault on the LGBT community and consistent trashing of 30-nation NATO defense of invaded Ukraine, booming the core of Putin lovers and transgender haters to power among converted politicians, persuaded by Trump's bribe billions to treat the 8% LGBT haters as a majority. Trump today is extremely far advanced in destroying many states' women's reproductive rights and care, transgender rights and care, and with dizzying speed, he is driving national and international politics towards Putin's destruction of all Ukraine by cutting off critical American weapons defense against relentless Russian advance. It remains to be seen whether he can summon a congressional majority to abandon their own appropriated defense of Ukraine. I believe most Americans think that a ceasefire with a strong, not weak peacekeeping force will save 1 million more lives than rolling over for Putin's final slaughter, as Trump obviously works for, refusing any Ukraine security guarantee in any of his mirror Putin ceasefire and Ukraine mineral handover and stolen territory surrender deal offers. My following weaponized defense proposals don't contradict my speech's theme, disarmament to save the world. If you'll remember, I stress multi, not unilateral arms reductions. Trump wants Ukraine defenseless for his pal to wipe out. China will soon invade Taiwan, specifically emboldened by Trump's surrender to Putin. Their defeat would become lifelong slavery, but far worse would be American-Chinese war over the island, which could kill billions with nuclear weapons. North Korea is poised to bombard and blitzkrieg South Korea. Weakness to allow this, or massive armed China-North Korea, U.S.-South Korea standoff, each have direct routes to nuclear World War III, including Russia, likely killing every single human on Earth. The dilemma today's world includes dictators over billions who will refuse to disarm, and many other corrupt war governments who make their livings off of run-up to doomsday. My speeches tell you to build the treaty that embargoes away their weapons to the moon intransigence. Phase 1 will take you a decade, but any more and humanity dies. The American people and 80% of humanity do not want a new Russian empire swallowing Eastern Europe like Hitler's blitzkrieg of Europe, as Putin and his pawn Trump plan. Not, in my opinion, rapidly realizing fact. In early March of 2025, Trump withdrew his ceasefire leadership, switching to 40-mile-an-hour Russian tank capture of Ukraine. Zelensky's forces have been in slow frontline retreat since 2024 Republican cutoff of military aid, hammered by their presidential candidate boss, of course. This winter's short military aid resumption was totally halted by Trump in early March of 2025, hours after he threw President Zelensky out of his Oval Office. Ukraine's survival recently has depended on their own drone bomber industry to hold superior Russian troop numbers almost at bay, thanks to Elon Musk's Starlink technology that locates every threatening Russian military position. Trump has not yet prevailed on Elon to cut off the life-saving technology that before his boss traded the Russian enemy in for now bad guy Zelensky, he proudly provided to our former Ukraine ally for the entire 3-year war. Ukrainian soldiers directing 155mm artillery shells onto Russian positions, until Trump keeps cutting them off, that is, and also movie links Zelensky's drones onto their targets. Thank American and indeed European patriot Musk for saving their defense and lives. For the last time, in 15 minutes, Donald Trump fed Volodymyr Zelensky and all of Ukraine to Alexander Putin. He suddenly allied America with 70-year enemies, Russia and China. Putin, Xi, and Trump are now the savage troika abusing all lesser powers, carving up humanity to help only each other. Military emperors enabling each other. America, 100 analysts have reported, is being Putinized at hyperspeed. How did this happen? The Citizens United Supreme Supreme Court wide-open politician bribery spigot, accelerated weaponeer, and all other giant corporate capture of Congress. An ever-growing percentage of federal and Supreme Court judges, and certainly the 8-year Republican dictator now criminalizing the White House and seizing a king's crown for Donald Trump, which he actually mocked up with an internet photo of that crown above his smirking face, sent to the New York governor after she protested that he had no right to override New York City commuter surcharge policy. Trump's sudden joining of forces with the world's other worst totalitarian dictators and small nation invaders remodels 80 years of democracy versus dictatorships to all major big dogs eating bunches of little puppies alive. I mean dead. Nationally, every day goes by with another 10,000 government workers helping us across 1,000 fields of survival and well-being, fired with lies that the 100% documented to be super competent are really performance failures. All to stop waste and fraud, say Musk and Trump. Actually, the waste is the massive life destruction caused by destroying essential, helpful government and the ruin of fired workers' livings. The fraud is their robbery of people's congressional law ordering every dollar, job, and service which the executive was given only the power and duty of executing, not assassinating our laws. Today, the Supreme Court eked out a 5-4 decision to uphold a federal court order to pay, not steal, a $2 billion U.S. aid contractors bill for services already rendered. Also, very small fractions of 100% illegal firings, indeed total gutting of many major agencies, are being halted by the courts. 100% of constitutional law scholars do not understand why lawsuits covering 100% of Trump-Musk impoundments and firings have not been filed, all results rising in just a few weeks to Supreme Court 9-0 decisions to enforce our Constitution's unambiguous 100% congressional, 0% executive power of the purse. The only adjustment of that power was the 1974 Impoundment Control Act, allowing the president a short period of funding and services delay for specific reasons of inefficiency and economy. Reasons fully explained in writing to Congress, which may then quickly vote to deny or allow the president his changes. The only other legal system is keep your stinking paws off of our money, Mr. Executive, not dictator. Instead, Trump has torn massive chunks of congressional law and government to pieces without a single lawful report and application to lawmakers from the lawbreaker-in-chief. Why are monstrously rich, corrupt, and power-abusive men doing this to us? Don't just blame Trump and Musk. While both political parties are paid campaign cash billions to twist the public health care of all other industrialized nations to private profit sick care, bankrupting millions of citizen victims, and to pour our trillions into hundreds of wars to profit weaponeers ever fatter from your taxes buying their weapons, one party is especially twisted to wrench government help of modest citizens to our treasuries emptied to million and billionaires. Today, Trump illegally fires tens of thousands of people from Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. ensuring that staff will not remain to get us but a fraction of the benefits our Congress has voted us. He and Musk also tear into the smaller percentage of government outside of its main military and entitlement programs. Their objective is precisely the same as most big corporate bribers, donors, to gut every government service to those who need them, all funneled back to massive tax breaks for the massively corporate and rich whose true need is greed. They were doing fabulously well before electing ever more pawns to rob us blind. I'll describe again their perfect thievery, fully enabled when the most corporate political party takes over legislative, executive, and judicial branches. Each legislator is given enough campaign cash to win 99% of primaries and 96% of general elections. Corporations wanting giant government contracts and sweetheart dirty business non-regulation tell their puppets, "Dance to our tune, or our billions will go to your primary challenger that we trust will deny us nothing. One wrong vote and your servile to us little career is dead. Got that?" I reported to you in an earlier speech that every congressman and senator drives to off-government property phone banks 5 hours each day on our salary to dun their rich donors for ever more money. The other side of every conversation is, "For that cash, here's what you'd better do against our 99% public victims and taxpayers and for your top 1% dictators." At risk of breaking my arm, patting myself on the back, ain't I put it together for you? They got us, and they gonna kill us unless you take away their every bribe dollar. I told you how close is nuclear world war, loss of water and loss of food. Today in America, as I write, tariffs and domestic government gutting is projected to drive our economy to very long and savage inflation and recession. Entitlement programs, easily saved by simple congressional reforms matching taxes to benefits, will instead be destroyed. But rather than pay for monster tax breaks for the rich, the jackals will borrow us more from 37 to 55 trillion in debt, collapsing all American government and our economy by 2035. Families plan ahead 30 years. These clowns thieve everyone and finally themselves in greedy, present tense, 5-year blocks. The rich bribers of, not donors to politicians, near completion of their decades of conspiracy. Gut government of multi-trillions, general welfare, the constitutional purpose of government, handing it over to tax breaks and sweetheart non-regulation of rapacious business practices, all for the already super rich. Destroy Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and environmental protection. Explode already unsustainable government debt another 30% inside of a decade. 10 more years of top-class robbery of the bottom 95% before everyone's economy, environment, and government is toxic, starving, broke, and waterless. Bring on 9,000 fireballs. Why? Because massive compulsive greed made king has no long-range sustainable survival plan. All they want is their last few years of fun. 1000% opposite of you, who wants, needs, and is about to win a world that your grandkids can love and love in till they're 100. Their goals deny yours, so your goals must defeat theirs. We 99% for 10,000 years have mostly lost to overwhelming military dictatorship force, which predator Donald Trump is well within 2 years of permanently inflicting on America, and how much of humanity. Today, just today, we temporarily retain enough democracy that we could stand up and use, or instead just sit down to let our freedom and survival end with rocket speed. The lazy option gives us a complacent blip of time before our suffering roars into orbit because we refused to devote 10 minutes a day to saving the world and our family. Trump's action to totally eliminate the Department of Education reveals his larger plan, also pressed by super-rich, 100% white donors to further crush the poor, brown, and black to boost the already overpowered white and rich. The Department of Education has had for decades several main functions: getting help to poorer school districts, and guarding and enhancing still to be achieved rights and opportunities for brown and black students and teachers. The white, rich, and corporate donors, often not as bigoted as Trump, still demand that the government that they buy favor the rich and white over the poor and colored, whose equal opportunities would disadvantage us poor little rich folks. I must have something to say, or you wouldn't let me hammer you with 106 speeches. You and I have heard 100 TV observers describe today's criminal government destruction of its own constitution. Courts, they admit, mostly avoid intervention. Dirty money is the problem, but nobody says, so stop it. Now, court orders are increasingly just flouted by jackals laughing, "Make us, wimps!" Oops, no independent constitutional law enforcement force. Oh well, checkmate. I'm tired of this essay. Gotta finish it. Since I was 10, I've heard a million analysts whine. Bad guys eat our lunch. Not one admits because we gave them every scorched earth power to abuse. Not one works at how to stop them. Which new laws? Who fights for them? Who enforces them? And what evil weapons and powers kill us or we ban them? Too tough to even think up, much less organize, inspire, grow, and make happen worldwide. So let's give up before we start. It's only all 8 billion on the chopping block. What's the big deal? Well, that fatal human flaw, our public rescue Achilles heel, is why I'm alive. Cancer will shut me up, but not my voice on tape. My power, my nothing. You're going viral to fix this shit. My leadership and organization beyond inspiring motivation is as pathetic as my words are the first little step start only. Why must you save the world? Because you hate miserable, unnecessary human victimization, suffering, and death, and you love your family's happy, long, healthy, peaceful future. Not possible without our expanding worldwide to enlist everyone's rescue of their families, achieved by changing governments from public theft and murder to humanity, love, and care. What happens if we don't get this done? 195 deadly governments come kill us real quick. That's right, the whole human world we're going to help and save because we need everybody helping us. The very same loving, caring, helping, interdependent way.